merry meet. So first let me say thank you so much for the response I've gotten on my video asking if anybody wanted a free reading. I am extremely grateful for the chance to do a tarot, rune or other divination reading for you. Now I haven't gotten around to reading for all of you yet, and there's a few reasons for this. First of all, I have had some camera problems, and I also had a crazy week, and also the response have been much greater than I expected, so I haven't had the time to do the reading for all of you. But if you haven't received a reading yet, I have not forgotten you, and I deeply apologize that I have been a bit slow, but I am going to get to you. Just wanted to get that out there. Now, on to the topic I wanted to discuss. Now, I got an idea for this topic a while ago, but I felt it was appropriate to wait a little bit before making a video. Today's topic, I sort of thought about when I heard one of the reports about that poor woman in India. She's only referred to as Braveheart, who got raped and eventually died of her injuries. And my prayers and well wishes go out to her soul and to her family. Now, one of the things that really caused a stir was when a guru said that if she had only prayed and chanted the right chants, she would not have gotten onto that bus. Therefore, she was at least partly to blame for her own rape. Yeah, that is of course a horrible thing to say, but it got me thinking that I've heard similar things from quite a few people in the New Age community myself. Like this woman who got cancer, and she felt really bad about it. She felt it was her fault because she did protection rituals, and suddenly she had cancer, which were of course a terrible burden for her family because nobody likes to have a family member who is having cancer, and she felt that it was somehow her fault, that she hadn't done her rituals well enough. If she had only been better at it, then she wouldn't have been sick. And I've heard of many others who have gotten into bad situations who feel the same. And this is sort of a dilemma for those of us who embrace magical thinking. And by magical thinking, I am referring to the idea that our thoughts, ritual acts, prayers, and so on can affect the world around us and affect our present, our past, our present, and the future. And on one side, embracing magical thinking can be extremely empowering, because then you are never left unable to do anything. I mean, if you think that your prayers can affect things, you can always pray. No matter how bad things get, you can always pray. And one of the things that I appreciate most about being a witch is that magic is always there. I never feel completely helpless. I can always do a ritual, I can always work magic to better things. And that's extremely empowering. On the other hand, it then opens the danger that we feel that when bad things happen to us, that we are somehow to blame for it because, well, we did magic to prevent it. Now, I have a few thoughts about this. Now, first of all, I do think magic protects us. I think that if you do protection rituals, that be chants to various gods or a non-religious protection magic, it does offer us protection. However, that protection isn't 100%. Most magic is indirect, and I've discussed this before in a video, the difference between direct and indirect magic. Now direct magic, that would be what you usually will see in a fantasy movie or a fantasy book. The sorcerer conjuring a fireball from his hands, whoosh, that's direct magic. Indirect magic, that's doing a ritual for example, money, and then sometimes later you win a sum in the lottery. And basically what that magic then does, it sends out energy that makes it more likely that the outcome you are looking for will happen. But more likely doesn't mean guaranteed. So let's say you do a protective ritual. It will then make it less likely that something bad will happen to you. But it doesn't make it guaranteed that something bad won't happen to you. Bad things happen to religious people, to magic users. It doesn't offer you a foolproof protection. Now, I've been in a few tight spots, and I do think that the gods have protected me. However, that doesn't mean I go around and is invincible, that something bad can never happen. And I think there's two very important things to consider here. One is that, first of all, magic sometimes fails. Magic is a skill, and like with any skill, even if you're really good at it, or if you're talking about religious devotion here, even if you have a really tight connection with your gods, you're only human. Sometimes you fail. It's like this. My mother is an extremely good seamstress. She could have worked with it professionally. I mean, she has made some clothes for me that is just amazing. But a few rare times, she buys the fabric, she cuts it, and then eventually when she looks at the finished result, she'll have to say, this turned out crap. She didn't succeed. The same way she's an extremely good cook, but a few times food get burned or things just don't work out. Forgive me for fidgeting. I have allergies. I've eaten something that I shouldn't, and therefore I itch. Anyway, back on the topic. And it is the same thing with magic. Even if you're really accomplished, sometimes a spell or a chant or some protective action you do fail. The second point is that if you have a religious view and you entrust your fate to the gods, you don't necessarily know their plan. And I think that the gods have a very different morality from us. And I think they see things in a much bigger picture than us. And that be the pagan gods, the Christian gods, the Hindu gods, any one of them. You know that old saying that God moves in mysterious ways? I think that's one of the hardest things to accept with religion. That the gods sometimes have plans for you that seems very bad in this physical life. I mean, it seems very harsh, but what if the gods had a plan for Braveheart? Perhaps she needed to get to her next incarnation with that experience, because there was something really important her next incarnation is supposed to do. Or perhaps her death, as it seems, will be the result, will spark much better conditions for women in India, because now the debate is raising. People are saying we can't treat our women like this, they say. And perhaps the god the gods she worshipped sacrificed her on the altar of progress. Now this is of course very, very harsh things to say, but if you believe in gods, you also have to accept that they are not human. And they see things in a bigger picture than we do. And sometimes they will then make choices that are terrible. Truly, truly terrible. But which might be for the greater good in the end. And so that's two things you have to consider. That first of all, a ritual, a protection ritual might fail because you did a mistake, or the magic just didn't work out. And the other is that it might not work because the gods, if you see them as the source of your magic, might not will it. Not because you have in any way done something wrong, but because they have a plan. Now, another thing that's very important to consider is free will. Now, I might do a protective ritual, but other people have free will, so that while I might affect others to a certain degree with my magic, they can still choose, unless I do magic to directly affect their free will, they might still choose to rob me. So yeah, the way I see it, magic affects, like I've said before, it affects the probability of something happening. So if I do a healing ritual every day to stay healthy, it will reduce the chance that I'll get sick, but it won't guarantee that I won't. If I do a protective rituals to keep my body safe, it will reduce the chance of something bad happening to me. It won't guarantee that something bad won't happen to me. So yeah, another thing that's often come up, which is related to this, is that if you believe in karma, reincarnation, things within that family of topics, sometimes when something bad happened to you, people say, but am I punished for some karma in my past, or karma in my past life? And I have to say, I don't think it works like that. I don't think we're talking about punishment here. I don't think that if in your previous life you were a complete asshole, that you will be punished by having some terrible disease in this one. I don't think the powers that be are vindictive like that. Now, I do think that sometimes a soul realizes that it has a lesson to learn. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in relation to something you have done. It could be, for example, that your soul needs to learn the lesson of accepting help from others. So, in its new incarnation, it has a traffic accident that leaves the host paralyzed, so that host have to accept help from others, and thereby the soul will learn that lesson. But this isn't a punishment. It is the soul nudging the person it lives in so that it can learn the lesson it needs to learn. And the same with karma. I don't think that if something bad happens to you, it is because that you have done something bad in the past. First of all, I think that even if you are a witch, a magic user, or a faithful follower of a religion, shit happens. Buddha died of stomach cancer. And I don't think we can say he's a bad person. I don't think you should look at things in the terms of punishment. Can sometimes bad things that happen to you have spiritual reasons? Yes. Like I said, it could be the soul needing to learn something. Or it could be that that is what you attract. It's like my grandfather, a fantastic man, a real hero. He risked his life during World War II to help Jews get over into or cross the border into Sweden that stayed neutral, where they could be safe. And he died of lung cancer. Now, my grandfather had a bitterness in his life. He always wanted to have more schooling, but his father said no. He wouldn't pay for it, so he had no other choice than to go out and work very, very young, and he could never let it go. He had that bitterness growing inside of him. And bitterness like that can sometimes manifest physically as cancer. Could that be a part of why he got sick? Yes, it could. But that doesn't mean it's his fault. It's the same that sometimes if you won't take the rest you need, and you just work your body and you work it and you work it, sometimes you will get sick. And I think that sometimes our spiritual intelligence that knows you won't take the rest you need, so you end up breaking your leg, because then you're forced to. Does that mean it's your fault? No. I think that we are so concerned with blaming someone. Some bad thing happens, we have to blame someone. And I think that having a spiritual explanation for something doesn't mean that there's a spiritual, that we can be blamed spiritually, that we are not spiritual enough, we haven't good enough. And I know it's hard. I mean, the same with my grandfather. I did healing rituals to try to help him, and I couldn't. I wasn't good enough. And even today, 10 years later, I sometimes feel bad. I feel that if I had just been better at healing magic, perhaps he could have been alive. But I think that even as magic users, and even as spiritual people, we have to accept that we are only human. We fail. And as such, yeah. And I have heard about a few cases where people have felt, I really shouldn't get on that plane, I really shouldn't get on that train, and so on, and I don't, and that turns out to have an accident. Sometimes we have guardian angels that watch over us. Or like this, you have people that survive things against all odds. Like this man who fell out of an airplane. Well, yeah, they actually fell out. He jumped because he had a parachute, but the parachute wouldn't open, so he just fell like a rock from an airplane straight into the ground. And he got up, and he had a few bruises. I mean, you don't think it should be possible. It did. He survived. And I think that when that sort of thing happens, you have an angel on your shoulder watching your back. Like this kid in my hometown who was playing in a barn, and he fell down and he got a farming stake through his belly. I mean, these things are like this. You use it to put hay on to get it to dry. And it missed all important organs and all larger veins. Yes, he stayed at the hospital for a while, but he survived with no permanent injuries. I mean, sometimes people survive things that are you shouldn't believe it's possible. I think then something is watching over you. But I don't think that means that if you are unlucky and something bad happens to you, that means that you have been forsaken by the divine. Don't think that any of us can know what the divine's plan for us are. And also, even if you do protective spells and rituals, sometimes they fail. Protective spells and rituals help. It doesn't make us invulnerable, and we have to accept at times that we are only human. So, could Braveheart have been saved if she had chanted these protective chants? Would that have given her a warning not to get onto that bus? Would it have made the gods and goddesses of a pantheon protect her more? Well, I believe in magic. I believe it's a possibility. Does that mean it was her fault that she was raped? Absolutely not. The only persons that are at fault here are the 6 men that raped her, and a culture that has made rape almost permissible. I think that we should accept the positive things about a magical worldview. The empowerment it gives, without then falling for the temptation of blaming ourselves for everything that goes wrong. I do believe that magic and the spiritual affects the world. That doesn't mean that we are to blame for everything that goes wrong. No matter how much you believe, no matter how strong your faith, no matter how powerful your magic, we are only human, and sometimes bad things happen. We can lessen the chance of bad things happen, and magic can definitely help us through it when bad things happen. But none of us are guaranteed to be safe, and we have to accept that. So, yeah. Please feel free to comment or leave a video response. I think this is an important topic to discuss in the occult community. So yeah, and also again, my thoughts and prayers go out to soul of Braveheart and to her family, and also to India, and I pray to the god and the goddess that the situation for women will get better there, and that it will be safer to be a woman in India. I pray that the tragic thing that happened to Braveheart will have meaning in that other women will be safer. May the goddess and the god, and the gods and goddesses of her pantheon, the good spirits and the energy, bless her and protect her, and bless and protect her family, and bless and protect everybody who needs them. Amen. Well, I hope you have all enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and blessed be.